Many thanks for staying tuned. It's still the conversation here on Lagos Television. On the program today, we'd like to take a look at Nigeria's economic performance in 2025. We all know that 2025 has been a year of mixed feelings on the Nigeria's economy. Of course, it's been a year of very good. It's been a year of not so good. And of course, we look forward to what 2026 will bring. But in all its entirety, what are some of the plus, the minuses, the places that we did really well and the places that we didn't really do well? I know that in one of the places that a lot of Nigerians are still complaining about will be the cost of living, which of course hasn't had much impact on everyday average Nigerians. But on the overall, have we progressed? On the overall, are we where we used to be? On the overall, are there rooms for improvement? Our guest is in the studio this morning, and together we'll be taking a look at this very important topic. Olusesan Okunade is a policy development analyst and, of course, is on the program this morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Okunade, for being here on the program today.
Yeah, good morning, Bimbo. Good morning to all our viewers. Compliment of the season.
Well, we should sing.
And the new year will give us more prosperity expected of us.
Right, as expected, we are a very hopeful people, and we will always aim our faith and hope in what God can do. Right, let's start this way. If we take a look at Nigeria's performance, economic performance on the overall in 2025, would you describe it as a one of resilience, a one that at least is promising, or one that hasn't really done the country any good?
Thank you very much. My reaction to that would be I'll use the first word, resilience. Where not so much progress have actually been made in terms of the expectation from the citizen, from the government to the citizen, and we are not where we were as of 2024. Okay. And I'll speak to this, that there are certain parameters used in measuring the growth of an economy. And one of it is when you look at the GDP, right, where we are today is quite different from where it was last year. In terms of inflation, a lot of us have actually spoken our mind that the rebasing should not be the basis at which we'll be measuring the performance for the year 2025, because if you look at what we have, you will be talking of about 14-15% inflation, and I'm sure people will ask that does that impact on the cost of living? The
exactly, no. It's definitely.
Averagely, if you look at without rebasing, we'll be talking of close to 30% where we were before now. In terms of production on the part of the manufacturers, I would say it's 50-50 because before now, the economy on its own, we saw dollar rose to about 2,000 plus this time last year, and it was a bumper harvest for those that are coming from diaspora to come and sprinkle that money on us, because just look at $10,000, you're already buying a property in the country when you convert it to our own naira. But there was stability in the course of the year, which give a slight planning for those that are actually doing businesses in terms of we having the dollar to move between 1,004 and 1,600, and people are able to actually plan with some of those things, which to a lot of us is really not still good enough, knowing where we started from. A friend was actually talking to me that vacation became a tug of war for everyone. I remember 2019, 2020, you need to travel to Europe, possibly, and America, you're spending less than 700,000. But you try to do that now, aviation is talking about 4-point-something million. So look at the quantum. And it's not that the value in dollars actually changed. It's just a foreign exchange that has impacted on that. And come to some of the imported goods that the manufacturer needs to use as their raw material is actually not been coming, and that's why we are not feeling so much impact when it comes to the standard of living or the cost of living, because we are import based and we rely so much on that. Coming domestically, security are threatening a lot of things that would have brought growth on our path.
Right.
Thank God for the move by my very troublesome president. I refer to him as troublesome president Donald Trump. Who actually, I will say this, that he actually put our government on their toes to make sure we have some security. First time in the history, maybe I'll give that as credit to this administration, that in December we did not observe those strikes that we normally have, where the insurgent will take over and people will be scared of going to. I think reverse is the case from what we are reading on this
because
page.
They are the ones fleeing now.
And I'm just asking myself, can we have maybe 1 or 2 more strikes, maybe before the end of the year, to those their corners, so that we can get them out? And it's what we've been saying, that if the political will is there, they are not bigger than the government, they are not bigger than the machinery that we put in place. And maybe to round up this particular statement before we go to the next one, I want to give kudos to the man that actually made the end of the year more relaxing for us. Bimbo, I'm sure you know what it used to be in December, where we'll be throwing cakes on one another, and traveling will become so difficult. Even though the transportation fare has not actually gone down the way we should have expected, but I'm sure you know, if not for his intervention, possibly we'll be buying fuel as high as 1,500, 1,200, and you can see the war. Even between
the price war, and the regulators.
And for the citizen, I think it's a good thing. We can only encourage Mr. Dangote to see the best, Alhaji Dangote, the best he can do. Possibly when you'll be looking at January, you should remember that that is the longest month we have in the year. Maybe the price of fuel, he can change his mind and bring it to 600 naira. Maybe we can have few impact on that. But by and large, it's been give and take, maybe 50-50. I will actually say we have the tax reform, which as we speak is already a confusion. There seems to be so much misconception. Seems to be. I was listening to your talking point on your news this morning, and the confusion from the National Assembly and the executive on whether we should start, we should not start. But my position has always been the law was signed to. The act was signed into law in June 25, and there are a lot of things that have going on. You know, a lot of organizations have actually, planned in line with some of these things. And my question will be, can we look at those areas where we have this thing? And don't forget, this law, the implementation is going to impact on 2026 financial year, and not this particular one. You are still going to run your account on the old law. So we can use the first quarter while we actually allow the
after all, we have till April,
for some of those things to be. So every organization that will be making, remittances to the government now is based on the old law, is based on 2025 account. So we can use those other periods to call the executive and say, okay, we observed it. Because as we speak, I've been asking the question, where is the harmonized copy that is actually different from the gazetted copy?
Exactly.
What are the highlights?
What changed?
Suddenly and this I want to put before Mr. President. If indeed this has actually happened and it's identified, I think the area we've always been speaking to, which is consequential management, for consequences for people that actually want to mess things up, should actually be melted on whosoever has actually done that. But economically, I would say government has actually created some stability, hoping that 2026 we can have a lot of things. But I'm sure on the other side, the citizens are not feeling the impact, and we are just watching what 2026 will look like.
Right. You mentioned a couple of key factors, of course, that have been either making or marring Nigeria's economy. You mentioned GDP, you mentioned the cost of living, you mentioned inflation, and you also mentioned oil, or PMS, as it may, concerning the private refinery. But if we look at all of these areas that you've mentioned, is there any particular sector that in your opinion, actually contributed to the growth of the Nigeria's economy in 2025. I know we do have sectors like, of course, agriculture, we have oil and gas, we have technology, we have, of course, services. So in your own opinion or your assessment, did any of these sectors actually do a yeoman's job on the overall economic impact of Nigeria in 2025?
Yeah, if I must actually give the sector that has contributed immensely, maybe I'll be going to the telcos and the technology wing. A lot is happening in that particular space, and on their own part, even though they are struggling based on the cost of operation on their path, but they contribute meaningfully to the bottom line. A lot of people now work from home, not the usual stuff that we used to be. People from the diaspora people here get connected to global space,
global remittances,
to get engagement and contribute to the bottom line. So possibly I'll give it to the telecommunication and the technology aspect of it, even though we still need serious improvement in terms of infrastructure that we need to ride on. A lot of people are still national with the cost of that. Is it data you want to talk about? Or cost of voice calls. So, but it has actually improved, and it speaks volume that if you are able to introduce technology into so many aspects of our economy, there will definitely be growth. The other area I want to speak to that has actually also contributed, maybe the oil sector, and maybe kudos to the one-man battalion we refer to.
Even though a lot of people are also saying that he's been monopolistic.
Yeah, well, everyone that are calling me a monopolist, I tell them go ahead and venture into the same business and see what it makes like. I don't know when people say individuals are monopolistic in their action. It worries me because somebody sat down, look at the risk of venturing into that business. He took a calculative risk. He's now enjoying it, and you're saying it's monopolistic in nature. What becomes of you? What stops you of venturing into it? A lot of people have actually been clamoring that it's actually clearing the road. They said he who uses it to clear the road may not actually live to witness
the change,
that will actually happen. But here he is, with all the bass blues, let me use that street language, that is actually happening to him. He still stood his feet, to make sure that he gave some of the dividend. You and I know what we bought fuel at the beginning of this year.
True.
As high as about 1,200. So what monopolistic nature? I've asked the question. Nigeria as a government has 4 refineries. What is the state as we speak? Somebody now took the risk to say, I can venture into this and make things happen, and we are saying it's been rather than encouraging and seeing. There are other. Remember, there was a time Dangote altered a statement. There are a lot of people who are money bags, but decide to invest their money outside the country of the country, and people are coming that is monopolizing. So at least
we need to look at.
So we should look internally and see how we can encourage this patriotism that is actually bringing out for other people to come into the space. I've asked the question: if the funds that was recovered or that we were able to that we got from subsidy was invested in our refineries, possibly we have 2 functioning now. Is that not enough competition with Dangote? Government using its muzzle to say, okay, maybe at that point in time, Dangote might choose not to be selling to us locally and be exporting to be generating, foreign exchange for us. It's still a plus. If the domestic market is not open to him, he can go ahead and do that. But I must give kudos to him. A lot of people that are actually talking in terms of monopolistic nature, look at what it looks like, venture into it. If it is easy, we've seen instances being that some people will say, they say the Sachi water is selling. That's the same
Let me go into that business.
They will go into it, and within a short time, you see them out and biting their fingers because everybody has strategy of adopting some of those things.
Did you study the market? Did you look at what you can do?
It's not about the boom that you're actually
It's about being sustainable.
It might actually be going through rough time.
Now nobody's
beyond what we
about
are seeing in terms of the price war. But because we feel that for him to have crashed the price and doing all this, there is more in it. We need to take a concrete and I think holistically, I will speak from the other side that areas where we expected this administration to have worked on, which I have not seen growth, is in the area of agriculture, and that is hanging on security. Should be told.
Right.
You see why the cost of living will continue to go on the high rise. If we don't address this insecurity, our purchasing power will continue to drink over.
Because the farmers can't go to the farms.
That's why a lot of people are saying, Sheson, you better trade something. I say, I am happy at the way US is assisting us. If we have this happen, we can have people. Do you know that this that is happening is increasing our population rate? Because people are not working, so they are just with their spouses at home.
Energy into other areas.
So when the government is providing food for them, you know why they are in IDP, and you don't have anything doing. Is it not to look at the face of your man? You're looking beautiful. I think we need to just go and before you know it, you are just doing it every 9 months, because you don't. When you are busy, engaged in productivity,
it takes your mind off certain things.
Mind off those things that you even consider that when last did I even add cost to do this thing? And that's part of the area where I feel government need to address the issue of security, because if that is actually taken care of, we can have our farmers go back to those the farm, produce that which is expected, which will have more supply. It's just basic economic principle. When you have more supply in the market, definitely the price of that particular thing, if the demand is not at will, will definitely crash. And those are areas which I feel government need to intensify more. And finally, power. Just yesterday,
another great collapse.
You understand, and we ask ourselves in this Jet A, what exactly can be done to address it? Because I know a lot of losses that several businesses would have faced with. There are certain set of people that they cannot just be out of supply. And we keep encouraging people to connect to the national grid without actually addressing those peculiarities that are actually there. Those two core areas, agriculture, to take care of food. They say when food is out of your business,
at least
then
half
the
of your business is
and when you are able to have access to power, energy, it brings productivity that is expected of us. And I think government has actually not met up to expectation in these areas.
Right. You've mentioned, I think the two areas you mentioned, well, one of the areas would be the energy issue, would also probably fall under the cost of living for Nigerians, because if we're paying more to get electricity, and sometimes you don't even have it, then you have to expend more money to buy fuel to power your generator and all of that. So all of these things will probably also bring a whole lot of headache and hardship on Nigerians.
And maybe I should just interject you, sorry babe. The other aspect, everybody is going to renewable energy. Is it affordable?
It's not affordable. It's not very affordable. And then you also could also have the risk of patronizing quacks. And at the end of the day, you end up, with maybe... And
that's why we say government just need to be intentional about certain policies that they actually bring up to
How about in the area of unemployment and job creation? Because again, if the economy is not being stimulated by certain parameters of growth, if your young people are not gainfully employed, even though earlier you did say that, the technology as well as fintech can also be attributed to part of being the growth process in 2025, but we still know that there are a lot of people who are not employed and who also are not in paid employment as we speak. Is that also one area that government has failed, or government has not performed to expectation, looking at the overall economic outlook in 2025?
Yeah, I would say yes. The government has not performed to expectation in terms of employment rate. This last statistics roll out that government rate themselves that they are actually performing. But I think the model that we are adopting, I don't know, much concentration, much power is actually now being given to the states because of so much funds that are actually being given to them. But are we creating that enabling environment in our states to actually create the creativity that is expected of the state? When you talked about employment, I don't look at the center. I look more at how we can domesticate it, either to the states, to the local government. If when you talk about paid employment, you can be in paid employment and still be creative to do,
yes,
you know,
I mean, you can, yes,
certain things
right,
that will contribute to the bottom
economy,
line.
right.
And those things are actually not happening as we speak, because maybe for Lagos, thank God for Dirty December, that created room in the entertainment world,
right,
and those other things
SMEs,
that those things can,
yes, small businesses
can benefit from. But by and large, after this Dirty December, what becomes of those other sectors that will not actually be there? Because what actually created this boom is the diasporans that actually came in during this period. Somebody was telling me that those in the hotelier business, somebody told me for 14 nights you have people paying as high as 18 million. And I'm like, what? How does that happen? It can only be from the diasporans who consider that the influx of the foreign exchange into the system will actually make so much. $18 million naira to them is really not a big deal for them to actually do for 10 nights, 14 nights. But can we sustain that after 30 December? And the answer is no.
Well, but I mean, so those that are paying the 14 million will carry their bags and go back to where they've come
from. They
will
go back and leave those of us that they have actually paid those money to. You take that of the taxes out there, and it becomes a problem for you to sustain some of the. Even a lot of them are actually growing.
Isn't that how do I put it now? Isn't that also your own way of dealing with your greed? Yeah,
well, I won't say it's just mere taking advantage of the opportunity that a lot of them have, and they would say, "Well, I don't mind. Let me seize this opportunity. The next 3-4 months, I may not get the patronage, but
so
now that they are around,
let me make good use of the opportunity
and see the best that we can do." But it's actually not the best way to grow economy. Economy should be a systematic and step-by-step growth approach. You measure your growth today and see your pitfalls, cover it up, and go to the next level. And with that, you can measure, not the sporadic one that just comes boost and everybody looked at it the way it should actually go. And when you look at an area where I feel we are lagging, there is no connectivity or collaboration between the states.
Yeah, I was coming to that. Go ahead.
As we speak. If the central is actually devoiding so much funds to the state, I was thinking that there should be creativity. Maybe I'll give kudos to the Southwest governor. I saw a particular promo on a particular station where we now have a surveillance helicopter from given to Amotekun to monitor activities in the Southwest. Right. And I saw all the governors, making their speech in area of saying we all collaborated to actually got this done. But I feel there are other areas where we can have collaboration. We have a very close states here. The rail system is actually functioning. If you travel out of this country, I'm sure you know a lot of people reside as far as Ibadan and work in Lagos in the developed class, because the rail system is actually functioning. And we have that now, but how much can we sustain it? How much surveillance are we putting on those areas that will devoid of attacks on the rail system or even on the passengers that we have? I will always tell people that I take security very critical. If economy must grow, there is no indices you want to put in place, nothing. It's impacting even on our education. Before now, people can travel. Parents can release their kids to go and school anywhere in the country. People leave Lagos, go to Maiduguri, goes to Kano, goes to Jos. But these days, when you are feeling your jam from your mother, in fact, the public school, they want to devoid it and say, I want you to stay under my ambit.
Let me monitor you.
And monitor. That on its own is impacting our education on its own. And that's why I feel that security is critical. We've not done so much. But I think we can take advantage of the current support that we are getting from outside the nation to see how we fizzle out this problem and be able to move on better.
I like how you've brought the state governments here and the state economies, because again, without them, there's really no meaningful impacts that can happen, because oftentimes we all look to the federal government and just forget that there are state and local government. But in your own opinion, how resourceful or how tactful can governors become more now, especially in shoring up their own revenue of their states, which will definitely have an overall impact on Nigeria's economy?
Yeah, you see, they should give kudos to our president, who has actually given so much to them. We've had interaction with several governors who will tell you that kudos to Mr. President, they have more revenue. But how much have you utilized this revenue to develop infrastructure in your state that can enhance business growth?
Right.
I've asked several questions. Lagos needs to be decongested. Sincerely speaking, if the neighboring states are doing what is needful,
right,
Lagos needs to be decongested. There are several openings in terms of industries, to the neighboring states. There can be collaboration with even states. There was a period where Lagos was collaborating with Kebbi State,
yes,
in
the
the area
rice.
of Lake Rice.
Yes.
We have that production now in Lagos, but I keep asking, I'm sure we cannot grow rice in Lagos. We rely on the input from the northern region.
We then
How
process
much
here.
are we, diversifying into those states where governors of those states see opportunity? You have vast land to invest in security, and I keep saying it that the government needs to be intentional as we go into the new year about state policing. We want to hold the governors accountable. When you hold the governor accountable in terms of security, you are addressing a lot of things. They can, disseminate the same power to local government. Local government have autonomy to actually operate and spend their money. So what stops you of providing security at the local, at the grassroots,
right,
at the CDC level, at the CDS level, where people can monitor activities the way to go? A lot of them, we keep telling them, you take some of these funds that is meant for the growth of the economy, for the betterment of the citizen. When you leave office, the fastest place to go is to move out of the country and not stay where you govern. I've asked a lot of governors who have served outside Lagos, why do you always return back to Lagos? What stops you of staying in the state where you were once a governor, if indeed you have developed those areas? And this is a question that is pertinent to some of them to develop their state. And when you are true, stay there, not only when you are seeking for living gubernatorial, living as governor, looking for a way to get into the Senate. When you have served a state, stay back in that state, monitor the growth that you're saying, and don't come and be putting pressure on those of us that are actually here in Lagos thinking that's where the whole thing
can
happens.
make it.
No, it shouldn't be.
Right.
Shouldn't be.
We know that it's often said that SMEs are the backbone of every economy. But if we look at how the SMEs and the informal sector fared in 2025, were they really given that environment to thrive? Was government also very intentional about their plights?
Yeah, well, I would say with some of the policy rolled out from the center and also from some state governors, you will say they are intentional. But you see, there are a lot of policies that are out there. There are a lot of funds being disbursed. You ask yourself the question, does those funds get to the needed ends that actually required some of those funds? And those are areas of concern for me. Most of the time, the intermediary tends to divert the funds, and stipends are just given to people that government had intention of giving some of those funds to. When you get to know that some of these things, because a lot of us have asked the question, several is it cash transfers, money are being disbursed to SMEs here and there. Can we have records? We are not saying that you should publish those names. There are ways you make those publications and you have witnesses. People go online. I can tell you as a small business medium practitioner, so much impact has not been felt on the part of the government. A lot goes into energy cost for an average SMEs, and that on its own is a big struggle. If you ask me, the woman who is selling a cold room in a very remote area, but because it's on a feeder that is on band A, and you're asking him to pay 209 to 225, how does it survive? You transfer the cost to you, and that becomes very, very, very hard on your part to actually survive. So for me, even though government might claim that they were intentional about some of these things, but do we monitor activities? Don't forget that even in Lagos, Mr. Governor did certain things. Is it on J code that was actually? Do you know that there were middlemen that actually broke into it, bought and were reselling at higher price? How many people were caught? How many people were punished for that act? That is always my concern. when the government have good intention of developing people, we should follow through. When we see people that are actually frustrating some of the good intention of the government, they should be brought to book. That will serve as deterrent to order. But most of the time, because of the political atmosphere, we shy away from it and feel that
look away.
If we don't support the SMEs, we are still. That's why you say from the new tax law, reform, we have a lot of reliefs for the SMEs
right,
so that they can breathe. That's why you have relief if you don't have up to 100 million and 250 million for your fixed asset. You're exempted from paying company income tax, and you now have some zero rated VAT, which gives a little, so that you can have liquidity to grow your business, so that we can move from SMEs and you become large. Then we can talk about tax you of some of the things that you're actually doing. But the area of concern to me is that so much is actually at times being done by the government, but we hardly monitor to make sure that those that are meant to benefit some of those things
are actually the ones benefiting. Right. Let's quickly gloss over the fiscal and monetary policies of the government vis-a-vis our debt profile, because our debt profile is also a great concern. I see you smile there like, okay, are we going to go here? But we really cannot go, complete this conversation, especially since we're talking about economic performance in 2025, without looking at those things. So, in a nutshell, looking at the fiscal and monetary policies of 2025 as well as our current debt profile, what impacts did they have on the economy?
When we talked about some of this fiscal and monetary policy, let me talk in terms of inflation, which is one of the major masquerade I always refer to that is bedeviling everybody. I feel because of failure in certain areas, we have not done pretty well as expected. Let's ignore what we have on the paper. When you speak to reality, you discover that inflation is still eating hard on us, and a lot of people are struggling to make ends meet. Maybe in terms of our foreign exchange, there has been a little stability with the injection of funds at every point that we want to have crisis by CBN to actually stabilize and regularize it. But more is still being needed in that area. We are looking forward to where we can talk of less than 1,000 as regard our foreign exchange. Maybe the dollar that we actually make use of as a currency in buying some of the things we have. In terms of the fiscal policy, the team set up by Mr. President working seriously to see how this can turn the fortune of an average citizen into a better one. But with the clog that we have in the wheel currently of not having, and a friend was sharing with me, which I told my friend Taiwo, that you see there's one thing about technocrats coming to the space. There's another thing managing the civil servants or the politicians who will implement some of these things that they're actually doing. And that's why you see a lot of time people will tell you that we have technocrats. Why are they shying away
from being?
Are we encouraging the team put together by Mr. President to actually work on the fiscal policy with some of the things that we're actually saying now? I feel that the only way you can encourage people, we are not saying that they are perfect, but there are areas where you can have common ground and see how you can appreciate the effort, the work. Now the team are going around, convincing people. I get calls like every other day. And I think I need to speak to the media space. Now that the media has gone so much viral, we have a lot of bloggers and the like. There are people who just watch out for just one word from people to turn around and actually latch on that make the whole mess of everything without having an in-depth. People read out of 5 lines. One line that you're actually coming up to give the interpretation of it in line 4. Just read line 1 and turn that to be a different thing that they will be carrying around. People are saying they want to be debiting an account, tasking the money in their phone. And I keep saying no government. In fact, before they could have that process of actually, going straight in, it's a process. It's a process. Court injunction, court would have given that sanction, which is still even in the new law.
Yeah.
And we've not seen them enforce it.
True.
Well, I think most of the time when people wake up some of the things that we have in our law, and people are just hearing it for
the first time.
These things are there.
They've been there.
They've been there.
Right.
So all we just need is, what they are doing is that if it goes to the extreme, and it's not even for the middle class or the low traders,
it's for those high up there.
Those high up
but
there.
they're the ones complaining. They're the ones who don't want this to work.
They will not want it to work because it's going to impact so much on them.
Yeah.
There are a lot of what I would call misappropriation of funds on their part, which some of
they
these
don't
things
want to be accountable. They don't want to be accountable.
The major problem we are having as a country is accountability. Transparency.
Right.
And this is what some of these things we actually
intend to tackle. Yeah.
You know,
before we go, we've looked at some of the issues we had in 2025. For you, what are some of the mistakes you'd like for government not to make in 2026, so at least give Nigerians, especially those down there, a sense of belonging on the Nigeria's economic space?
First and foremost is to try as much as possible to avoid these policies of assaulting that we have. That on its own create a lot of trust gap between the government and the people. You are here out with a particular policy today, while people are actually thinking of how the implementation will look like. You are reversing and postponing to other days, and you ask, was there no thought through on this particular policy? It's critical, because every private organization relies on government policy. That's why you will not see a lot of people work on their budget until when they have government budget to know which area are they concentrating on, which area do we need to actually prepare ourselves towards. So the consistency in the path of government policy is very key and very vital. The other area is this area of security. I think for me, this conception of granting amnesty, government should have a rethink about it, because I feel that it's another area where people are lashing out. I have said it times with that number. Information is much more powerful than the ammunition that you're actually carrying. You can carry an ammunition, be facing the wrong direction, and the people with information of how to get you will definitely use small of such ammunition they have to just get rid of you, because you lack information. And what we've seen is that there's still this synergy between those that are being granted amnesty and those that are outside, providing information on things that they actually need to do. So government must be intentional. And a lot of people that speaks on their behalf, we are not saying they should not speak, but we should. I listened to when you and Elijah were saying something of somebody who said the government should stop this bombing because his investor are scared of coming into the country because of this bombing of a thing. Is your investment worth much more than the lives that we are losing on daily basis? Even if your investor, what's the guarantee that they will?
Their investor will be alive. Exactly.
What guarantee? Let's address the issue of security. I want a situation where in my country, what we've had years back, people travel at night and they comfort with their eyes closed. And I want to draw the attention of the Minister of Works to round this up, to say that I think between Lagos and Ibadan and this Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, my question is, the contract that was awarded,
traffic lights?
It's not traffic light. The what do we call it? Security lights that we always have.
The street lights, right?
The street lights that we have. Is it not part of what should be entrenched?
It should be.
I remember when the contract was awarded on 3rd Mainland Bridge. You know how deadly it was. But now you can drive at the middle of the night, anytime to do. I've had cause to drive from Lagos to Ibadan late in the evening.
Thick of the darkness.
It is a suicidal mission.
Right.
The only thing you can see is your headlamp. So if somebody is coming to attack you from every angle, you can't see anything. And if your light is not that bright, it's a gate. And that put a lot of threat for people who have actually carried out a business possibly during the day,
and are traveling back at night. So
at night to get some of those things. Those are things that encourage, that simulate our economy those days. My Southeast brothers workers who reside here travel to Aba overnight. They are there in the morning. They do all they need to do during the day. The night they are coming back to Lagos to see how their goods will actually meet them. I think the government needs to be intentional. I'm calling on the Minister of Work. They should do something about, you know, electrifying Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. It's a connecting one between Lagos, Ogun, and if they are not doing, let the Southwest Governor take up the responsibility, at least to give people respite that they can travel
anytime
at any time of the day to transact their business.
All right, we'll have to leave this conversation here this morning. Thank you so much, Olusesan Okunade, Policy Development Analyst, for sharing your thoughts with us on the program.
It's always a great time to be with you, Ben.
All right, thank you so much. That's all we'll take on this side of the table. We'll take a quick break. When we return, Adebimpe will be here with her Lagos conversation.